I want to start today with moving in to a new state of being right away. So here's how it's going to go. I'm going to ask you to think about those elevated emotions that are the emotions that are connected to your future. Are you listening to me? Yes. Those emotions that you wrote down yesterday. Yes? Yes. But instead of us bringing up the symbol representing our clear intent and then creating the emotion, this time we're going to cultivate the emotion first. And I'm going to ask you to rest your attention in the space in the center of your chest in space. You should be able to do that pretty well. That's your target. And then I'm going to ask you to allow your breath to flow in and out of that creative center. Slower, deeper, and more relaxed, that it's safe to breathe. And just be present with your breath a little bit. And then I'm going to ask you to call up those emotions from your future. And I want you to take a chance and feel. And just allow yourself to raise your energy. And I'm going to ask you to sustain it for a period of time. And you will be dropping a pebble in water, and another pebble, and another pebble. And the longer you can hold those emotions, the more pebbles you drop, and you create those waves, that energy. Then I'm going to ask you to radiate that energy beyond your body in space. And all I want you to do is become aware of the space beyond your body in space. Pay attention to it and raise your energy. And then I'm going to say to you, that energy is frequency. In all frequency carries information. Lay that thought, that intent on that energy. And all I want you to do is remember that future, that symbol, or whatever connects you to the future, and sense that energy beyond your body, tuning in like a radio wave to your destiny. And the longer your consciousness lingers in that energy, the more you're calling a future to you, because you're creating from a level of energy instead of a level of matter. Are you with me still? And then I'm going to say to you, whatever you broadcast into the field is your experiment with destiny. And all I want you to do is open up, hold that symbol, and radiate that energy, tuning in to a future. And when there's a vibrational match between your energy and that future potential that already exists in the quantum field, you will draw the event to you. You are the vortex to your destiny. Fifth dimensional creation. Are you with me? Yes. So it's not going to take too long, but I want you to change your state of being, because those are the people I want to talk to. I want to talk to the people that are connected to a future. How does that sound? All right, here we go. Sit up straight. If you have a watch on, take it off. And relax. Relax. And become aware. Of the infinite black space. In this infinite
space, and become aware of the space in the center of your chest. In this eternal void, and allow your breath to flow in and flow out through this sacred center. Deeper, slower, and relaxed. And now feel those emotions of your future. Now. to your future. And the longer your consciousness lingers in this energy, the more you draw your future to you. For whatever you broadcast into the field, is your experiment with destiny. And slowly bring your awareness back to a new body, to a new environment, and to a whole new time. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes and come back to the world of the senses in this space and time.
Could you change your energy like that if you practice it enough times in traffic? You do it in traffic? Yes. Instead of getting frustrated and angry and impatient, can you just tune into a future instead? Yes. If you're online at the bank, instead of could you just sit there and just change your energy? And if you practice doing that every day, would it get easier for you to do if you kept doing it? Yes. So then, is it possible then, when you change your energy, you diminish the emotions that you live by every single day and change your chemistry to a different set of emotions? Is that possible?
Yes.
And if our students can raise their IgA levels from 54 all the way to 87 in 4 days, the worst thing that could happen to you is that you get healthy. IgA is the primary defense against bacteria and viruses. It's better than any flu shot. It's better than any flu shot. It's better than any flu shot. I'm just reconditioning you. You got to hear it over and over again. The power's always been within you. And so you could do that anywhere. And who knows? If you do it enough times, it'll just become your normal state of being. And then you'll be more committed to being happy than committed to being unhappy. Is that true or not? Because you can come up with 1,000 reasons in your life to be unhappy, because that's where you place your attention. Are you with me still? But you ever hang out with those sweet little ladies that are in their 80s that are giggling? And I say, how do you do it? And they say, well, I just decided to be happy no matter what goes on in my life, and life's been good to me. Like, is that wisdom or what? I want to have what she's having. You know, and people always put me on television shows and they say, what is the secret to happiness, Is it some diet or, you have to eat certain things? What is it that gets us happy? And of course, the camera's coming towards me, the red light is flashing, and we're under 30 seconds, and they're asking me this question. I just say, stop being unhappy. Stop thinking the thoughts that make you feel bad. Stop doing the things that cause you to love yourself less. Stop tormenting your body with suffering and complaining and blaming. Your cells are getting those chemical messages. Give your body a break. See what happens. It'll start getting joyful on its own because it's no longer being tormented. Are you with me still? Yes. So then, many of you are going to leave this event this evening, and some of you are going to return back to your normal lives, and you're going to have to make a choice to apply these things to go from philosopher to initiate, and continuously doing it until you begin to master it. Some of you will react to someone or something in your life. You won't take the time to retreat from your life every single day to get your mind and body working together. Invest your energy in the future, and you'll get up and you'll start those routine, predictable behaviors, thinking the same way, acting the same way, and feeling the same way. And yet, nothing's changing in your life, but you're secretly hoping that it does. So then, those of you who stop doing the work are just more committed to the emotions of the past than those emotions of your future. Yes or no? Yes. And when you stop doing the work and you stop believing that your thoughts create your reality, you stop doing it because of some emotion that you're addicted to. Are you with me still? Yes. And you'll find someone in your life with the same emotion, and you'll get a lot of agreement, and life will be bad for the two of you. Are you with me still? Yes. And yeah, there are going to be challenges in your life, because if you want freedom, as an example, there's a lot of responsibility that comes with freedom. And then you're going to have to upscale your understanding of what that future looks like by being challenged with your present beliefs, and the initiation, meeting those challenges from a greater level of mind, is what causes you to embody the truth of what you're learning philosophically. Are you with me still? So then, wouldn't it be a good idea then to retreat from your life a little bit every day before you start getting into that cell phone and going through your routine? You think it may be a good idea to sit up and ask yourself, who do I want to present to the world today? Who do I want to be when I open my eyes? What are my blind spots? What are my weak points? When do I go unconscious? What emotions do I need to be aware of? Just a little inventory. Yeah, and I'm sure you know that coworker that pushes all your buttons. I'm sure you can find 1,000 reasons to judge her or him. But I'm telling you, when you change your energy and your heart is open, how can you judge them? You just see a part of yourself that you used to be that you no longer are. Because the only reason they push your buttons is there's some aspect of you that you see in them. Am I getting too close? So then, yeah, you can come up with 1,000 reasons to judge, to be unhappy. I can too. But when you decide to go against those chemicals, now you're in the river. Now you're doing the work. And I tell people, I don't care if you stop doing the work. What I care about is when you start again. And some people say to me, Dr. Joe, I just have to tell you, I didn't do my meditation this morning. like I'm some person they need to confess to. And I say to them, eyes open or eyes closed? Who you being right now? Where's your energy? Check in. Are you connected to a future or connected to a past? It can change your energy in a matter of moments. And if you keep practicing changing your state of being every single day, and you fall from grace because of someone or something, and you fall back into that old habit, that old program, that old emotional reaction, you should be able to excuse yourself for a minute, take a few breaths, raise your energy, and present yourself back to the world again. To me, the God within us loves us for that. It's like watching your kid make a mistake and all of a sudden back up and say, I got this. I got it. And who do you want to be in your life, or what type of people do you want to be with when there's chaos or breakdown going on? Don't you want to be around the person who says, I got this? Because they're just ready for the initiation. You want that in your life. You got to be that in your life. Are you with me still?
Yes.
So then, many people, they get all fired up about this work, and then, they can't carve out a little time in their day just to sit down. And I can tell you that it's worth it. And I raised my kids, and when I raised those kids, and I know what it is, and they're young, and, you got to take care of them, and they have chemical needs and all that stuff. But when I sat down, I sat right in the center of the living room, wrapped myself in a blanket, put blindfolds on, and I sat there, and they played right around me. That was just what we did. They never bothered me. They just knew that was my time. And if they wanted to be around me, they could be around me. But I was not, unless there was some type of casualty, I was just there. And they just understood that's what I did. And when I came out of it, I was so happy. And they wanted me to do it, of course. And they'd be handing me my blindfolds like, get down there. Take care of some business now, Dad. And so it just becomes an understanding. And my kids that's just part of their neural architecture. They do it themselves now. And they have relationships, and they separate themselves from the relationships, and they love themselves enough to do that. And you should love yourself enough to do that. Because when you do, you're taking your power back and really being responsible. And the question that I've been asking myself for the last 5 months is, Joe Dispenza, at what point do you stop believing that your thoughts create your reality? What is that point? Because there is a point. And that point is the point where you decide to be a creator or a victim. That's it. So can you extend that a little further? Because you can say you believe in your wealth, but at the same time you don't believe that you created that circumstance in your life. You can't say that. That's a mixed message. You're all in or not. Are you with me still?
Yes.
So then people say to me, well, I didn't create that car accident. And I say to them, yeah, you did. You created by default. You created by not creating. You were left to the randomness, the entropy of reality, and you bumped into matter. It's just a matter of time. So then, many people, they return back to their life, and the person or the circumstances in their life don't allow them to do it, and they compromise for other people. And every time you compromise, you give up a piece of yourself. You keep doing that, and you no longer remember who you are. You understand what I'm talking about, yes? And you give away a little of your energy as well. And all of a sudden now, you're at effect of other people, and you're living your life to keep them happy. And that may work for a while, but it's not going to work long term. Are you with me still?
Yes.
So then, you compromise and you stop doing the work, and you start getting beat up by your external world. Now you're anticipating the person doing exactly what you want them to do, so you can feel that emotion of judgment and anger. And now you're hooked in. You are in your reality, and it is real to you. And the only thing that matters is talking about the self, to reaffirm those emotions, to get approval, to get validation that you should feel this way. Yeah, and that's human nature. And that's normal. And that's natural. But if you're going to become supernatural, you better start giving when everybody else is taking. You better start loving when everybody else is judging. You better be able to stop the reflex, the knee-jerk of your automatic responses and make a different choice, just a different one, just to put you in the unknown. And if you're sitting in your meditation and your body is raging and you're settling it back down into the present moment, you are taming that emotion. You are telling your body that it's not going to the past and that you're the mind. And sooner or later, the animal is going to surrender. It's going to get retrained. And then you will knee-jerk less in your life because you overcame yourself. You with me still? You will see the part of you used to be and the person you don't like that you no longer are, and you'll only have compassion for them. Are you with me still? The person that betrayed you, that talked about you, that bore false witness about you. You're so happy, you feel so amazing that you just see that that person is just struggling and suffering. You just get it. You're no longer connected to that past, present reality. Are you with me still?
Yes.
So then, stop doing the work, and you get beat up by the conditions in your external environment, and you're living by the hormones of stress. And guess what you're going to do? You're going to start anticipating the future based on the past. And out of the infinite potentials in the quantum field, when you're more emotionally out of balance, you're going to select the worst one. And then you're going to make it even more worse. And then you're going to create even more worse things happening. And you are creating a future. Are you with me still? And then as you hold that future to the exclusion of everything else, the thought becomes the experience in your mind. It is so real that your body, as the unconscious mind, begins to believe it's living in that future, and you start feeling the emotions of fear, of worry, of vigilance, of anxiety. And your body's being conditioned to the mind of that future emotionally, of fear, of anxiety, of worry. The body is already in the event. And if how you think and how you feel creates your state of being, your state of being is equal to that very execution of thoughts and feelings. Are you with me still? And then, of course, you start getting impatient and you start getting frustrated, and now you're reacting to everyone and everything in your life. You're wanting them to do that, to prove to yourself you have a reason to feel that way. Are you with me still?
Yep.
And then, of course, you can't sleep. And then you're drinking more coffee in the morning because you can't sleep, and now the coffee's keeping you up at night, and you're missing meals, and now your blood sugar's out of balance, and you're having problems with your kids and work, and all of a sudden now, you're mismanaging your energy, and you're thinking about every person, everything, every circumstance. Your brain is in high beta. Your heart is beating arrhythmically, and you're not feeling very well, but you're pushing through it because that's what we do. Are you with me still?
Yes.
And all of a sudden, there you are. You're in the grocery store, and you're just walking with your carriage, and you're rushing to get from one aisle to the next because there's never enough time. And all of a sudden, your heart starts to race. Your breathing starts to get out of control. You start experiencing visual narrowing. You see all these white flashes around you. What are you having? Panic attack, yes or no? So then, the moment you feel a change in your internal chemistry, like something is wrong inside here, you look to see what's causing it outside of you. Oh, it's open spaces. It's shopping malls. It's a supermarket. It's an airplane. Something outside of you in that immediate moment you think is causing you to feel this way. You forgot what you've been doing for the last 5 months, conditioning your body to become the mind of fear. And you conditioned it so well. And remember, stress is when your brain and body are knocked out of homeostasis. And there's physical stress, trauma, accidents, falls, injuries. There's chemical stress, blood sugar levels, overcaffeinated, flus, viruses, hangovers. And then there's emotional stress. Stress. All those emotions that go along with it. So physically, chemically, and emotionally, your body's out of balance, and you've conditioned it to become the mind of fear. You programmed it. And try as you may to control that panic attack, you can't, because you programmed it subconsciously. You with me still? Body's going to have a panic attack without you. It's not going to let you know when it's going to happen. And of course, you can't predict the future. And if you can't predict the future, now you start worrying about the next panic attack. And now you don't want to go out of the house. And all of a sudden, your reality gets smaller and smaller. Are you with me still?
Yes.
I'm telling you a story of people that I've talked to. These are professionals. These are professionals that got to the point where they wouldn't drive over a bridge. Their anxiety was that high. Professionals, doctors, attorneys. They limited their experience of the world because they were afraid how their future was going to unfold again. And the more afraid they got, the more they were programming that. You with me still?
Yes.
And so you can't predict the panic attack, and that's one of the things that creates the most amount of stress, is not being able to predict. And now all of a sudden you're becoming more anxious and more afraid. So then you go to the doctor. And the doctor says it's a chemical imbalance in your brain. It's molecules, it's chemicals, it's circuits. Take this pill, and it's going to help you. Now here's my first question. Now that you have the insight that it's a chemical imbalance in your brain, you now know what it is. Does it heal your anxiety? If you take that pill, does it heal your anxiety? No, it may mitigate it. It may reduce some of the symptoms, but you'll still avoid open spaces. You'll still avoid supermarkets. You'll still avoid shopping malls, airplanes. Well, you haven't healed at all because the environment now you believe is controlling how you think and feel, because that's how you've been programmed. Are you with me still? Am I getting too close? Come on. Yes? I want to. I woke up this morning and I said, I'm going to speak straight to you today. So then you go on a walk with your girlfriend, and she's, studied psychology in college, and she says, it's not a hardware problem. It's actually a software problem. It's behavioral. Your father was overbearing. He was a perfectionist. And of course, now you're programmed to be a perfectionist. And when you can't control everything in your world, you get really stressed out. You go, that could be true. Now here's the question. Now that you have the insight that it was your father that did this to you, does it heal your anxiety?
No.
So then you go to the psychic. And the psychic says, you were Genghis Khan's mistress. And he left, and he never came back. And the memory is burned in your soul. And then, in the very next lifetime, you were Cleopatra's sister. And there was a very strong competition between the two of you, and she was abusive to you. Now that you know that you had those two past lives, does it heal your anxiety?
No.
In fact, you will walk around and say, I was Genghis Khan's mistress, and that's why I have anxiety. Reaffirming that state of being. So then you go to the astrologer, and the astrologer says, Mercury is where? Don't leave the house for 6 months. Now, listen to this. People will give their power away to a planet and excuse their own mismanagement of energy, their own habits, unconscious behaviors, and emotional addictions, and give it away to some planet. And they'll say, well, it's Mercury. When I'm at a dinner and someone says that, I go, oh, I gotta go. You know better now, don't you? Yes. Now, you go to the numerologist. She says, when were you born? 10:05 in the morning. Where were you born? I was born in Sarasota, Florida. Oh, okay. And I mean, all of a sudden she starts cranking out the numbers. She stops. She says, were you a cesarean? Yes, I was. Well, you were born 15 minutes too early. You were born in the wrong house. It's your mother's fault. She should have waited. And now that you realize that you're born in the wrong astrological house, and that's why you're having all this anxiety, does it heal your anxiety? So then sooner or later, you're going to have to deal with yourself. Yes or no? Yes. So then, if it is an effect of your own thinking, if it is an effect of your own unconscious habits and behaviors, and if it's an effect of your own emotional reactions to thoughts in your brain or to people in your life, would you agree then you might want to sit your body down and pay attention to those thoughts and become so conscious of those thoughts you would never let them slip by your awareness unchecked and go unconscious? Are you with me still? Yes. Would you agree then, the more you observe how you act, what you do, what you say when you are out of balance and stressed out, would you agree then, the more you observe that, the more you will be able to change it? Yes or no? Yes. And if you can observe those emotions that come from that emotion, and you see how one leads to the other, and you decide that you can control those emotions and return back to a different state of being, back into the present moment, would you agree then that if you can do that, you can decide if you want to experience those emotions because you're more aware of them? And the research shows that people now can anticipate when the emotion's going to come, and they can head it off before it happens. That's when you get really good, when you're in the present moment. Are you with me still? Yeah, and you'll sit down, and your body is going to buck and kick like an unbridled stallion. But you trained it that way. Nobody else did. You trained it that way. And you can tell me it's your ex-husband's fault, or it's your coworker's fault, or it's your mother's fault. I'll say, okay, let's take your coworker, let's put him in a straitjacket, and let's shoot him to the moon. Let's take your ex-husband, and let's send him to Siberia. But, you still got to deal with yourself, yeah? You still have those circuits embossed in your brain. You still have those emotions stored in your body, and you still are going to have to do the work to get beyond your past. Are you with me still? Yes. So you're sitting there in the present moment, and your body doesn't want to sit still. Your body wants to get up and do things, so it doesn't have to pay attention to that emotion. It can distract you from those emotions. And you're sitting there, and you're saying, we're not getting up until we find the present moment. And yeah, there is a battle between David and Goliath. Yeah, because the ego is that big. But if you keep working it, and you keep returning back to the present moment, I've interviewed enough people to tell you that that person, when they finally surrender into that present moment, they can't be anxious. There is no future, that same future any longer. And the body finally starts to trust the person, finally starts to trust them. And when they're sick and they sit their body down, their body responds to their mind because they trained it that way. Are you with me still? Yes. And so, yeah, it will take some effort on your part to find the present moment in your life. But I'm telling you, our students do the work, not because they have to, but because they see the benefits in their lives. They know when they're there and when they're not. And they don't lie to themselves and say, oh, I'm going to be positive today, but really they're feeling pretty negative. They're not doing that. They're changing their entire state of being, and they're managing their energy and aware of where they're placing their attention, and they're watching what's going on in their inner world, and they're changing that moment by moment as well. And yeah, in the beginning, it's a pretty crazy garden. There's a lot of weeds. There's a lot of overgrowth. There's a lot of plants from the past. There's a lot of rocks that sifted to the top that are emotional blocks. Yeah, the soil is pretty rigid and dried out, hardwired. But you got to start somewhere. You start getting those weeds out, those old thoughts. You start pruning away some of those branches. You start pulling out those plants from the past, the dead ones too, that no longer serve us. Remove those emotional blocks. Make room for something to grow. Tender the soil with love and attention, and plant a new garden. Yeah, it'll take a little work, but then all of a sudden, when you start to see some growth, and you start to see it bear some fruit, and you start to see how it changes, it's always worth it. And so we have to tend to our own gardens in our mind. Would you agree? Yes. So then, if we stop doing the work because of some emotional addiction, from some emotion that's causing us to view the future through the lens of the past, that future no longer exists. We stop doing the work because of some emotion. We stop believing that our thoughts create our reality because we're in survival instead of creation. Are you with me still?
Yes.
And you're more addicted, more committed to that emotion of your past than you are committed to an emotion of the future. And you just can't feel the emotion of the future, then you know why your dreams are not occurring in your life. Are you with me still?
Yes.
Come on, that bounced off some of you.
Yes.
Because your energy and your attention is on those emotions, and your energy and attention then is in the past. Are you with me still?
Yes.
Yeah, I know sometimes it takes a little bit to feel gratitude. Yeah, I know. I'm challenged every day. But I'll tell you what, I like myself a whole lot more when I'm feeling gratitude than feeling other emotions. And so will everybody else. Are you listening to me?
Yes.
So then, if an addiction is something you cannot stop, and now your environment has got a hold of you, and it's causing you to react to someone or something, and you're giving your attention and your power to that person or that circumstance or that thing, you don't have any energy to create. Would you agree?
Agreed.
So then, if an addiction is something you can't stop, and you're living every single day by that emotion, it's no different than being addicted to anything in your life. Are you listening?
Yes.
Whether it's coffee, I don't know, I'm making this up, sugar, sweets, whatever, chocolate, whatever people get addicted to. I don't think any of those things are bad, but if you can't stop them, then they run you. Yes or no? Yes. So then if you're addicted to something in your life, and you say, okay, I'm stopping eating chocolate, I'm no longer having sugar, I'm not gonna, drink any coffee, and all of a sudden I show up with a hot cup of coffee and a big chocolate donut, and I sit down in front of you and I say, how's your day going? Now remember, you're addicted, and addiction is when your body becomes the mind. Would you agree that the moment your senses begin to interact with your environment, what you're smelling, what you're seeing, what you're feeling, would you agree then, the moment that occurs, your body starts sending signals to the brain? What is it saying? Start tomorrow. Tomorrow's a better day. He's eating it, can't be too bad. This doesn't feel right. Just take one bite, just one bite. You know that that's the body trying to cause you to return back to the familiar feelings, to the familiar state of being. Would you agree? Yes. So the war goes on, yes?
Yes.
And then all of a sudden, the moment you smell it and you see it, the autonomic nervous system is already producing the very chemicals, and your body begins to believe it's in the experience. You start salivating, your stomach starts growling. You're already eating the chocolate. Your body's already in the event because you've conditioned it that way. And remember, conditioning is based on the past. So the moment you see that chocolate and that sugar and that coffee, the moment you begin to interact with it, the conditioning then says you've taken away some feelings in your internal state by relying on these things externally to make you feel differently. So you're feeling this way, you need these things. Are you with me still?
Yes.
And then when you eat those things, it takes the feeling away. You with me still? But when the feeling comes back, you got to do it again. And you got to do it again. All of a sudden, now you're hooked. Yes?
Yes.
So then, when you start seeing it by conditioning, you start smelling it, your body automatically, physiologically, chemically, is preparing you for the experience. It's anticipating the future based on the past. It's expecting it. Yes? But now remember, you declared, I'm not having any coffee, any sugar, any chocolate. Right? But your body is already wanting it. So then the war takes place between the mind and the body. Yes? Come on, are you with me? But let me ask you a question. If you broke free from any one of those addictions, just say you no longer, you really overcame your coffee thing, your chocolate thing, your sugar thing, would you agree that if you broke free from the addiction and the body's no longer the mind, I could show up with a cup of coffee and a chocolate donut? There's no tug. You could eat it or not eat it. You're just like, whatever, dude. I don't want any, but I'll have a bite. Or it's not a big deal for you. Yes? You're no longer controlled. Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. So then, if you're addicted to certain emotions in your life, and you're using the people and conditions and circumstances in your life to reaffirm your emotional addiction, the bad relationship with the coworker, the bad job, difficult living situation, whatever it is, the memory of a past, the anticipation of some worst-case scenario in your future, and you need those conditions in your life to feel those emotions. Would you agree then, if you're using your coworker to reaffirm your addiction to judgment, and you're using your boss to reaffirm your addiction to anger, and you're using your enemy to reaffirm your addiction to hatred, and using your friends to reaffirm your addiction to suffering, you're using your parents to reaffirm your addiction to guilt, you're using the news to reaffirm your addiction to prejudice, whatever it is. Would you agree then, if you haven't overcome and broke the addiction to that emotion, the moment you walk back into your environment and you see that person, you go to that place, you're near that thing, the moment you see it, you're going to get signals from your body to think certain ways. Go ahead, judge a little bit. It's okay. You're right and she's wrong. And all that's slipping right by your brainstem, signaling your autonomic nervous system. It's going by unchecked. And your body then automatically, autonomically, physiologically, and chemically returns right back to the past. And you go unconscious. Are you with me still? Just like the chocolate cake, your stomach starts to put juices out, your mouth starts to salivate. Well, the moment you see that person or that circumstance or that place that you use to reaffirm your addiction to that emotion, your body automatically, physiologically, chemically is going to automatically feel like a victim, feel validated, feel righteous, that you have a reason. Are you with me still?
Yes.
Now, here's my question. You're sitting in your meditation in the morning, and your body is giving you trouble. I know this because I've sat with my body for hours. And why do I allow for 2 hours? Because sometimes it takes me a whole hour to get in the present moment, and I am not going to get up until that body of mine surrenders. And I don't care if it takes the whole 2 hours, because I know that it's always worth it. And every time I've gotten to that point where I said, I just can't go any further, and I go a little further and my body surrenders, I always say the exact same thing. That was so worth it. It was so worth it. And all of a sudden, I get up and I'm a liberated energy. I feel amazing. I feel free. I feel clear. I'm no longer tormented. by the past and the future. I'm relaxed and feel pretty calm in the present moment. I'm poised. I'm spontaneous. I'm free. And I can tell you, I've had some crazy, crazy things happen to me that many of you wouldn't believe. And I always look to see how I'm being when it happens. You ready? I'm totally goofy. I'm kind of silly and I'm not really thinking. I'm just celebrating the moment and I'm just not analyzing. That's when it happens. So that's, if you're creating in that state of a love for life or feeling unlimited or abundant, and then you get up from your meditation and you're feeling pretty angry and judgmental, you're just keeping that future at arm's length away from you. Are you with me still? Because the emotion is what draws it to you. Are you with me still? So that's like eating an organic, wonderful, vegetarian, perfect breakfast and then spending the rest of the day eating junk food. By the way, those people who eat wonderful food, I love that. But I want you to know that a lot of people who eat the most perfect meal, and they're all rigid and contracted and perfectionistic and self-judgmental, do you know they're turning all of that wonderful protein into judgmental, righteous, self-rigid protein in their body? The gene is just doing that. It's making organic fear, just proteins. Now, I eat well, but I'm just saying that, sometimes it's more than just diet. Yes or no? Yes. So, if you understand then that when your body is raging and it's throwing everything at you, and you say to it, that's it, that's all you got, I'm going to stay here. And I'm going to keep working this back into the present moment. And I know if I get frustrated, my brain waves are going to change. I know if I get frustrated, I'm going to be in my past. I know if I get frustrated, my body's going to become the mind again, and I'm feeding it the very chemicals it wants to feel. It's a spoiled little brat. We're not doing that today. And you keep loving it back into the present moment, unfolding back into possibility, you will have the experience of that liberation of energy. And you will have overcome yourself sitting there, breaking the emotional bond with your coworker, with your enemy, with your boss that you've used all along, and now that energy is coming back to you, and you have available energy to all of a sudden create a new future. Are you with me still? And I swear to you, you are breaking out of your past when this happens. You are breaking those energetic bonds, and you will stand in the presence of your greatest adversary, the person who threw you under the bus, the person that betrayed you, and you will have nothing but love for them. You are no longer your body as the mind emotionally. You are free, and when you're free, you belong to a future instead of belonging to a past. How many people are with me? Yes. So there will always be a reason to not do the work. Did you hear me? Yes. There will always be a reason to not do the work. And I'm telling you, my heroes, I watched a young man in an event in Zurich with a very serious genetic lung condition. I watched him overcome himself in a long meditation. I saw blood coming out of his mouth. I saw what he was doing. And I was so moved in watching him. It wasn't in his nature to give up. It wasn't in his nature to complain and feel sorry for himself. He would never do that to his body when he was healing it. I watched him that he couldn't lay down, because in our advanced work we lay down to allow the autonomic nervous system to take over. I watched him. I knew he couldn't lay down. It was a long meditation, that advanced follow-up. But I knew he was on it. I knew he was working with his body. I saw what he was doing. I've seen his brain scans, too. I knew what he was doing. A genetic condition. But the next time, that next week, he went to his doctor, and he had a 22% increase in lung volume, and he was picking his girlfriend up and running up and down the stairs with her. you got to tell me he's loving himself and loving his life a little bit more. Would you agree with me? Yes. And you know what? He's doing it just to see if he can. And yeah, he could have 100 reasons why he's not going to do his meditation because he just didn't feel like it. Well, he's never going to let feelings be the barometer for change in his life because he knows he'll always talk himself out of it. He's greater than his feelings. And so if that can happen to him, imagine what could happen to you if you just take a little time out of your life and apply some of these principles. And who gets to be the beneficiary of that? Would you agree you do? Yes. Then your family? Yes. And then what? The people you work with, and finally the community that you live in. And you know what I tell our advanced students? I tell them this right to their face. You know when you're changing, you stop talking about it. Period. You're too busy being it. You're not saying, oh, I'm going to do this. You know, you're already doing it. You're in the river, man. You're awake and alive. And yeah, there's a little danger in there, and it's a little scary, but at least you're alive. At least you said, I'm more committed to the unknown than I am to guilt. I'm more committed to possibility than I am to fear. I'm more willing to step outside of what I know and live in possibility than to live in my own suffering. That's a great person to me. That's a great person. But it's not like you're out there and you don't have coordinates of where you can go. Now that you're in the unknown, you get to choose from the unknown what you would like to create. Are you with me still? Yes. And so then, making that journey and crossing that river, yeah, it takes a little bit of effort. But everybody benefits in your life when you do. And when you stop talking about it and you are it, people are going to become very suspicious of you. They're going to want what you have. And it's not because you're saying anything. You're just not being tugged in the same way. You don't have the same facial reactions to people. You've overcome that. There's no longer an unconscious reflex. Your body language is changing. You're standing differently. Your energy's in a different place. You're thinking clearly. You're talking about different things. You're smiling more. You're present with the person. You're listening instead of interrupting. And all of a sudden, people notice that. And then you give them permission to do the same. And they all of a sudden want to be around you because you're the only one that understands them, but you're not really saying anything. You're just observing. And when they ask you for advice, the wisdom that comes out of your mouth is not based on philosophy. Like you really need to forgive. You don't do that. You just say, well, what do you want? You ask them the poignant question, well, who do you want to be? You ask them the question that you asked yourself to get you where you are. And that's the poignant question that they need to ask themselves, but you're doing it from experience instead of some psychological philosophy. You're with them because you understand them, because you were once them. Are you with me still? Yes. And if you're interacting with that unified field, and you're taking time to say, I got to connect with it, because I know that when I drink from a deeper well, I have energy from nowhere. I don't even know where this energy comes from. And you're interacting with that unified field, and its signature is oneness. Its electronic magnetic signature is wholeness. It's not separation, it's not duality, that's not polarity. It's wholeness. And you begin to interact with it, and you experience less separation and more wholeness, more oneness and less duality. And your brain and your biology and your heart and everything all of a sudden is getting retrained. And you're doing that on a daily basis. You would have to agree with me then. You would be less interested in rushing around in your day. Yes or no? Yes. You would not want to judge somebody, because the moment you judge somebody, you would go, what happened to the feeling? You wouldn't want to analyze everything in your life, because the moment you're feeling great and you analyze, you lose that feeling. Are you with me still? Yes. You are becoming a scientist watching your inner world and seeing how it's affecting your outer world instead of reacting to your outer world and believing it's controlling your inner world. And yeah, many people will tell you you're crazy, but every great person in history was always considered crazy in the beginning, weren't they? Outside of convention, whether it's social convention, scientific convention, religious convention, cultural convention, outside of some belief. And everybody was thinking this person is crazy until they pulled it off. And then they were a saint. Then they were a charismatic leader. They were a genius. I mean, dare to be original in your life. And if you are interacting with that unified field on a daily basis and you feel more whole, you're going to see the hidden meaning behind all things. And you're going to be less seduced by all that stuff in the outer world that causes you to believe you're separate from someone or something because of a culture or skin color or a sexual preference or a diet or whatever. And you would be less interested in that because you're connecting to everyone and everything, and everywhere and every place and every time. And you understand that we're just wearing masks. Just wearing. We're dressing up for the show. And we get to live it out. And when you're tired of playing one game, you decide to play another one. And it's all okay. And there's no right and wrong. There's just evolution. And when you keep interacting with the unified field, you're going to outgrow things. You're going to outgrow your pain. You're just going to outgrow it. You're going to outgrow complaining. You're just going to outgrow it. You're going to outgrow your pills, possibly. You're just going to outgrow it. You're just going to outgrow them. And that's because you're moving closer to the unified field. And you're experiencing less separation from your dreams. And when you feel connected to them, you'll never try to force them or control them or predict them. You're just going to let them come to you. And when that becomes the constant in your life, then there really is nowhere to go. Because where you are is where it's happening. Are you with me still? Yes. So then, final question before I finish my Sunday sermon. Is it worth it? Yes. Is it worth it to do the work? You cannot tell me now you're too old. You cannot tell me that. You can't. I've seen people. We have people in their 80s that are advanced students. They're dancing around the front of the room, and they're more life than people in their 20s that are hypnotized, living in trance out there. All hooked into technology. You can't tell me you're out of shape and you can't do the work. I've seen people just show up and just connect to that intelligence, and it rocked their world. You can't tell me that the quantum field, the quantum principles, don't work for you because of the past. Can't tell me that any longer. I've seen people overcome insurmountable pasts that would probably, most of you would never even want to think about. Living on the street, homeless, have a whole different life right now because they did the work. You started from somewhere, and you got to start from somewhere. Would you agree? Yes. Now, I'm done with my Sunday sermon. I want you to turn the person next to you and have an enlivening conversation before we begin. Thank you. Let me ask you a question. Reason this with me. I have had many meditations where it took me a lot of effort to get beyond myself because of all those futures and pasts and all the things I have to do and the people I have to see and the hard knocks of running this company and everything that goes along with it. I understand what it takes to find the present moment. And I can tell you there were some days that I didn't want to do it because I was jet-lagged, or I may have had 3 glasses of wine and stayed up talking about quantum superimposition to somebody. You know, there were times that it's such an unusual thing because some of the times you connect and you think something amazing is going to happen, the moment you start thinking that way, you're in the way. You understand? And there are other times where I just had to work so hard and just didn't think I really connected the way I wanted to, and my day was just amazing. Crazy, wild, wonderful opportunities and synchronicities were happening all around me. But the divine in us doesn't say, hey, I'm a white guy with a beard, and I'm sitting up there with my laptop, and I'm checking to see what you're doing right and wrong, and man, if you do a few too many things wrong, and this Excel spreadsheet goes this way, I'm going to put you in the can in a very, very hot place for the rest of eternity because you made a few mistakes. You think, you're a parent. How many people here are parents? Would you do that to your kids, lock them in the closet for the rest of their life because they made a few mistakes? Or are you going to forgive them and give another chance? So if you're doing that, and this God that we are programmed to believe in is that vindictive and insecure, oh my God. Are you with me? But the divine in us is just proud of us that we're actually emulating it. Like, oh my God, my daughter, my son is going to emulate me to be an observer of their future. And they're going to look within instead of outside. And if you want to hide God really well in the human being, hide it within them. They'll look everywhere else for it. And finally, you're coming home for dinner. And if your kid hasn't come home for a year and they probably didn't call you as much as they should have, but they're coming home, aren't you just going to be like, come on in, tell me everything you learned? You're going to open your doors. That's what love does. And this is a loving intelligence, an intelligent love. And your will has to match its will. Your mind has to match its mind. Your love for life has to match its love for life. And when you do, it always answers the call. Are you with me still? Yes. So then, I can't tell you how many meditations where I had difficulty overcoming myself, but the next day, I connected even greater. So it's always worth the effort. You are ascending a great mountain, and you are going to have to continue to climb. Do you understand? But it's always worth the effort. You tell me, there are interdimensional beings that come to our advanced workshops, and they have talked to me, and they have healed people in our audience, and they look nothing like you and me. You listening? Yes. And they are some big dudes and dudettes, and they're beautiful. And they have taken tumors out of people's brains. They've done all kinds of things. And they have talked to me. And they have told me we can only lower our energy to a certain point. If we lower it too far, we change our consciousness. And we would never do that. But if you raise the energy of the room, sir, to this point, we'll meet you right in there. Are you with me? Now, I'm not a Wu-Wei Whales in space guy. I don't do that stuff. I don't spend my time on any of that. But I'm telling you, they come. Now, let me ask you a question. You reason this with me. If you can't get beyond someone's skin color, you're going to judge another person because the way they look, do you think those beings are going to appear to you? Come on, reason this with me. Because you may say, my God, you are strange looking. Or you're ugly, and they're going to say, you look pretty ugly to me. Do you understand? Yes. How can you interact with diversity if you're not free beyond all of that? Because it's the law. Do you understand? Yes. So then, as you keep surrendering an aspect of your limited self to join the greater self, you're making room for wholeness and oneness. And you will be connected to everybody, everyone, everything, everywhere, and every time. Because that is the quantum field. It is an invisible field of information that connects everything material. and it exists beyond this space and time. And you have all the neurological and biological machinery to connect to it. And the people who labor to overcome themselves consistently, every single day, overcoming, you're going to learn if you come to the advanced workshop. It's not about getting wealth. It's about becoming wealth. It's not about getting healthy. It's about becoming healthy. You understand what I'm talking about? It's about becoming it. Because if you become it and you lose everything, you're the source that created it. There is no loss. You're not holding on to things because you're experiencing separation. You're giving because you understand when you do, you're emulating the divine. And if you want to emulate the observer and the divine, and it comes time to create, the hair on the back of your neck better stand up. Because you think that the observer that's observing all of this into life is creating like not from a place of empowerment and loving its creation. So you better emulate it. And if you are going to do something unlimited, you better feel unlimited. And if you're going to emulate the divine, you better become divine. And if you're going to do the magnificent, you better feel magnificent. And when you do, you raise the energy of your body and you produce field. And now you're more connected to that unified field, because that's how the observer creates. And I was just writing about this in my book. Scientists say to me, yeah, well, we believe that there is, something, a unified field that's keeping it all together. We don't really think it's an intelligence, and really? I say to them, so if there's an explosion, there's a big explosion, is there order or disorder? Disorder. I said, okay, so what happened after the Big Bang? How come there's so much order here? You don't think there's some intelligence loving this into order, observing it into some order? And when you get present and you begin to observe a future and you're completely in the present moment, it's observing you, observing it, and it is endorsing your observation. Are you with me still? Yes. But if you're all over the place with thinking about people and things and places, and then all of a sudden you pause for a second and you go, oh, God, anywhere you go again, oh, God. It's going, what do you want? What do you want? What was that thing? You want to murder your who? What was that? You want to murder who? You want to murder who? But if you're completely present, you're in front of the mirror. And it's going to mirror that back into your life. And the closer you move towards it, the faster in time it appears in your life, because there's less separation between you and your future. Are you with me still? Which means the higher the frequency, the higher the energy, as you'll learn in your advanced workshop, the shorter amount of time it should take to appear in your life. Which means if you want to create something out of nothing, you got to get to nothing. If you want to create something out of nowhere, you got to get to nowhere if it's going to appear out of nowhere. If you want it to happen in no time, you better get to no time, because that's where everything material comes from. Are you with me still? Yes. So have I inspired you a little bit? Yes. All right, I did my job.